What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome into Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and welcome into our weekly live show where we discuss the latest around your Minnesota Vikings. And we got a lot to unpack on today's show. Did Wes Phillips, OC for the Vikings, leak their quarterback plans? And then also just want to give a little season review for the Vikes, and we'll also have a mailbag on today's live show. But hey, before we dive into that, if you guys love the Minnesota Vikings, give me a skull down below. Already got Justin in the building, edits, Movie Talk Studios. Great to have you in the building as well. Miles in the house, Richard Thinner, Talon saying Skull J.J. McCarthy, Vikings fan number one. What up, man? Welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Joe Zappa, Carrie, Mark, Roger Bong. Roger saying I am Scolio. Scolio? I think that's what you're saying, Raj. I love that, though. Appreciate you for tuning in. Richard D in the chat. Stefan saying Wobby vibes. Wobby vibes. He's saying I give Wobby vibes. Weber saying, sup, my guy. Greetings from East LA. Skull. East LA representing the Vikes out there. Love to see it. Lou saying Skull in the chat. Dano and Edits all in the building as well. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. But, we are going to talk about Sam Darnold on today's live show. I just want to ask you guys this off the top. Sam Darnold is the blank best quarterback in the National Football League. Miles, appreciate you for tuning in, man, and the kind words. Shout out to you, man. But you guys let me know, where do you think Sam Darnold ranks right now amongst other NFL quarterbacks? So, I think you have the big three. I think it's Burrow, Lamar, Mahomes. And then I think it's up to conversation as who's the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth best quarterback. I think he's top 10. I think there's like a tier of Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. Then there's another tier where it's like the guys like Herbert, Stafford's up there, excuse me. But where Darnold is, I'd probably go sixth or seventh maybe. Miles going fifth or sixth. Justin's going fourth. Movie Talk saying fourth. And again, just this year, like where does Sam Darnold rank just this season in the NFL? Vikings fan number one going 9. Talon Remmer going 9. Sam Darnold is the 9th best. William Dunsmer saying no doubt top 10. Vikings fan going 5th. Tony Belcher saying 5th. Vikings fan number one going 9th. Carrie going 5th in the chat. Yeah, I'm probably around that 5th to 8th range right now for just this season. He's playing his tail off. I mean, he really has been the MVP of this football team over the past month. I mean, 12 total touchdowns, no interceptions, averaging just under 300 yards per game. Like, that is top 10 production in the National Football League, plus he's winning games. You really couldn't have asked more from Sam Darnold so far this season. But we'll get to more here in a second. But first off, I quickly want to tell you about one of our sponsors on today's live show, and that is Game Time. You guys download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. You guys will get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now, Game Time's got a cool new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. But the promo code for that is CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. Now, I also want to tell you about our other sponsor here, and that is PrizePicks. And if you guys download the PrizePicks app today, plug in promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is PrizePicks? It's the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 200 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So if you guys plug in promo code CLNS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. A massive shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, we are going to be talking about the defensive line here, and specifically Jalen Redmond, and I do want to show him some love because he has been absolutely balling out over the last couple of weeks. 2 TFLs, 2 pass breakups against the Falcons. Really has been, been probably the biggest shocker, I would say, in terms of guys breaking out this season. And, if he continues to develop and just gets better and better every single week, like, he will be massive for the Vikings in the playoffs because, at that interior defensive line, him being great against the run game, you got the Eagles, Packers, and Lions, 3 of the best rushing offenses in the National Football League. And if you add Jalen Redmond back, you add Ivan Pace back to that group. I know the run game has been struggling over the last couple of weeks, but in terms of their defense, but I still think once Pace, once Redmond, if they keep going, man, he'll be a big part there. So I'm going to call him. Obviously, Darnold is the biggest X factor, but I also think you can make an argument Jalen Redmond, like if he ends up popping and he's like a true Pro Bowl, all-pro level player, like that would be massive for this ball club. But once they get pace back, I'm not really too worried about the run defense. But this guy over the last 2 weeks, man, really is started to turn my head a little bit. But, hey, we're going to get into a mailbag here in about 30 or 40 minutes or so. So if you guys got a question for me, hashtag Vikings or Super Chat in the live chat right now. You'll get your question up on screen next to me. We'll have your profile pic, your name. So if you guys want to be included in one of our mailbags that will get seen by 10,000 plus Vikings fans. Last week, our mailbag got over 20,000 views here on Twitter. So if you guys want to guarantee your spot on the mailbag, super chatting is the #1 way to do so. Or if you guys just plug in hashtag Vikings, whatever hot take, whatever question you guys have, we'll get it up on screen. It will be seen by thousands and thousands of Vikings fans. So I highly encourage you guys to do just that. But coming up on today's live show. So we got a quarterback update kind of from Wes Phillips. He had some very interesting quotes around Sam Darnold, and did he leak it? Did he not? I'll kind of explain what he had to say, and then also want to dive into our second segment. Are the Vikings peaking at the perfect time? I'll explain my thoughts on that here in a little bit. And then, like I said, we will have a mailbag, so hashtag Vikings, like Vikings fan already did in the live chat. Literally whatever take you want, just make sure you put hashtag Vikings in the live chat. I would really appreciate it. Everybody. And then, hey, if you guys are ready to go, you guys want to get into the quarterback update around the Minnesota Vikings, just hit that thumbs up icon. We're at 20 likes right now. Once we get the 30 likes, we'll start off today's show. But 120 people in the building. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. A lot to talk about. Our Vikings are 11-2. Got a really good chance to move to 12-2 this Monday night against the Chicago Bears. So I'd appreciate it if you guys could hit that thumbs up icon. We're 8 likes away from 30. Once we get there, we would dive into a potential leak from Wes Phillips. I'm not sure if I want to call it a total leak just yet, but he had some really interesting comments on Sam Darnold and potentially where he could, be playing his football next season. But hey, 28 likes, 2 more away, and we'll start off today's show as Talon's saying, hashtag Vikings. What do you think of Jonathan Grenard doing really good? It's a great question. Hey, hashtag Vikings. We'll throw it up on screen. I'll answer that during our mailbag, Talon, but shout out to you for tuning in. But we just got 36 likes, so shout out to y'all, Ben. But let's dive into it. Wes Phillips, did he leak the Vikings quarterback plan for next season? Let's talk about it on today's show. Did Vikings offensive coordinator Wes Phillips leak the Vikings plan in 2025 for the quarterback position? Now, this is going to be a juicy show. Wes Phillips, when he spoke to the media on Monday, he had on Tuesday, he had some very interesting quotes on Sam Darnold. And, I want everybody to put on their, investigative hats on here as this is a little juicy show. I'm not fully saying that, Wes Phillips leaked the plan, but he did have a lot of interesting things to say around Sam Darnold. So I'll share with you guys that here in a second. But I'll ask you guys first, what would you do with Sam Darnold? And I think there are 3 options that we'll dive into on today's show. Number 1, you could franchise tag him. Number 2, you could extend him. Or number 3, you could just let him walk. So give me a T for franchise tag, E for extend, or W for let Sam Darnold walk. All right, let's dive into the quote that kind of got got a lot of clicks on Vikings Twitter, so I want to talk about it. So, Wes Phillips on Sam Darnold. He said, a sought-after type guy, wherever that may be. Happy for him, no matter where that ends up being. I would hope he would kind of say, hey, the body of work that I put out in so far is going to take care of the future. Really, all I need to worry about is right now. I think we all know that Sam is going to be a sought-after type of guy from wherever that may be. Whatever his future ends up being, I know all of us in this building are going to be happy for him. No matter where that ends up being, I don't think he has to worry about that anymore. And with what Wes Phillips had to say of just continuously saying, wherever Sam Darnold is, wherever he ends up going, we'll be happy for him. Like, is he pretty much going out there and saying Sam Darnold is not going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings next season no matter what happens? And I'm not really sure what to make of this, but it is incredibly interesting that Wes Phillips said this. Because Wes could have got up there and said, hey, I'm not going to talk about Sam Darnold, where he ends up going. We love him in the building, and kind of just keep it there. But he gave a pretty in-depth answer just saying, hey, wherever Sam Darnold goes, we'll support him no matter what, pretty much indicating that it won't be in Minnesota. And Kevin O'Connell jokes about it all the time. They call him Dr. Wes Phillips as he almost leaks too much information to the media. Maybe Kevin O'Connell's going to have to sit Wes Phillips down and give him some media training, because I do not like that he pretty much came out and said that Sam Darnold will be playing elsewhere. But, with the Vikings and the Sam Darnold situation, I think they got three options. Number one, I'm going to talk about the franchise tag for Sam Darnold, because Colin Cowherd, he talked about this, saying this is how he would play it. But the biggest negative about the franchise tag is the price. Now, this is an estimation, but it is supposed to be, the franchise tag will be $41 million next season. And this isn't a $41 million where you can push it down the road and his cap hit ends up being like $20 million for next season. Like, no, the franchise tag price will be $41 million on the books. And, some pros of tagging Sam Darnold would be you get him on a one-year rental. Like, maybe you're not a full believer in Sam Darnold being the guy for the Minnesota Vikings. So you want to see one more year of it, and then let's just say he goes and he does it again next season. Then maybe you give him that long-term extension. But also, you would allow J.J. McCarthy to develop for just one more year, give him one more season of rehabbing from that knee surgery, and then you'd also have control over him. And a lot of people are throwing out there the franchise tag and trade scenario, and I see that, but also I'm not too sure the Vikings would do that to Darnold, because you'd be kind of doing him dirty. Maybe there could be some handshake agreement where it's like, hey, you have to approve of the team that we are sending you to with the franchise tag. But I think these are the pros of the tag, but the cons of the tag would be you would have $41 million fully on the books. Like, you can't add some void years. You can't create that in the dead cap. Like, no, the $41 million be on next year's cap. And with the Vikings having $68 million in free agency for next season, would you really want to take 41 of that $68 million and put it towards Sam Darnold? So that's why I'm not the biggest fan of the franchise tag. Ideally, which is my second option for him, and we'll talk about what my ideal contract here is in a second, but just extend Sam Darnold. I think that's your second easiest option. We'll talk about the third one of just letting him walk here in a second. But my ideal contract, and obviously this can change. And, quickly I will say, I don't like the kind of notion out there where it's like, oh, Sam Darnold needs to do this and accomplish this, and then the Vikings will keep him. Like, we have heard it where if Sam Darnold gets us to a Super Bowl, I'll extend him. Well, what if Sam Darnold goes for 303 in the wild card, we win, and then in the divisional round versus Philly, what if he lights it up, goes for 350 and 4, but the Vikings end up losing, but he looks fantastic in 2 playoff games, but since he didn't reach the conference championship or the Super Bowl, you're just cool with letting him walk? So my ideal contract would be 2 years, $50 million. You can really lower that cap hit, create some void years, create some dead cap, and then you still have a lot of money to spend in free agency. But why I love this contract so much is actually got to take a look at our good old friends over there in Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for multiple years. Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers for multiple years. So why can't the Vikings do that same thing with J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold, where if you give Darnold a 2-year extension, that still allows J.J. to just have 3 years sitting behind Darnold, and then still, even then, J.J. would be 22 years old, turning 23. That year, he would be slated in the start. He would still be extremely young. He would be more pro-ready than if you would just throw him into the Wolves next season. So I like going that route, but again, we'll also talk about the situation where the Vikings just let him walk here in a second. But I do want to show Sam Darnold some love on today's show. Type his jersey number. Type those 14s down below in the comment section. I think he's got one of the coolest stories in the NFL. He was spit up, chewed out, spit out at the New York Jets and Carolina Panthers. So I think he's got an awesome story. And if you guys want to show him some love, type those 14s down below. Now, we'll talk about the situation where the Vikings let Sam Darnold walk here in a second. But first off, I want to give a massive shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Game Time. If you guys download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS, you guys will get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, my favorite feature of the Game Time app is their Views from Your Seat feature, which gets you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy. Now, if you guys want to go to a Vikings game, Timberwolves game, Wild game, Game Time, #1 way to do so. And if you guys download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS, you guys will get $20 off your first purchase. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It is game time. Now, the third option, which I think a lot of Vikings fans are still leaning towards, is that you just let Sam Darnold walk. And I got some issues with this because, I would be sick to my stomach just letting a potential top 10 quarterback just walk out of your organization. But I think this all comes down to how much you trust Kevin O'Connell. Like, if you think all of the success that Darnold has had this season is because of the head coach, then yeah, you should be okay with letting him walk, because you would assume Kevin O'Connell could just do the same thing with J.J. McCarthy, and you got J.J. on a 4-year, $22 million deal. That's way better than if you even gave Darnold, like my ideal contract, a 2-year, $50 million extension. Now, the one negative, in my opinion, about letting Darnold walk out the door is the amount of pressure that would be on J.J. McCarthy next season. The Vikings are 11-2. Darnold is third in the league in passing touchdowns. That would be the bar, and that would be the standard set for J.J. McCarthy. Because let's just say next year the Vikings get a really tough schedule early. Let's just say they're 4-3, 3-4 throughout the first 7 games. And let's just say J.J.'s struggling because it's his first time starting the National Football League. I guarantee you Vikings fans will already be hitting the panic alarm saying, why do we let Sam Darnold out the door? This time last season we were 6-1. Darnold was third in the league in passing touchdowns, whatever it may be. It would put a ton of pressure on number 9. Now, I say all that to say this. I am still a massive believer in J.J. McCarthy. Like, even though I would prefer the Vikings to keep Darnold as it stands right now, again, that would change. But even if you let him walk out the door, I still feel like the Vikings will be very, very successful with J.J. McCarthy. I'm a believer in him. I'm a believer in Kevin O'Connell and just this whole organization to get the most out of that young quarterback. But again, you don't let top 10 quarterbacks walk. And you might be saying, well, Sam Darnold's only playing like a top 10 quarterback because of the weapons, because of Kevin O'Connell. It's really not because of him. And I completely disagree, because if we look at the advanced numbers here, his big-time throws on the season, he's had 29. That's tied for first in the National Football League with Josh Allen. Big-time throw percentage, 6.9. Who is he tied with? Josh Allen. Average depth of target, third in the National Football League. He is pushing the ball down the field, and he is averaging 9.5 average yards per or average depth per target. And then also his adjusted completion percentage, 79.2, fourth in the NFL. And if you just go raw numbers here, Darnold, Josh Allen, very, very similar. Darnold's got the edge in completion percentage, pass yards, touchdowns. Yes, Josh Allen has thrown less picks, and he's obviously more of a dual-threat quarterback, and I'm not putting on this graphic to make the case that Darnold's a better QB than Josh Allen. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but I'm using this to kind of really just get you guys a clear view on how special this season has been for Sam Darnold. But then on the other side of it, in the limited action we saw with J.J. McCarthy just in that one preseason game, playing with the 2s and 3s of the Vikes. Yes, he was going against the 2s and 3s of the Raiders, but he lit it up. He threw an interception on his first drive, and he bounced back, going for 188 yards and 2 touchdowns after that. So, I would just also, I'm fighting both. I feel like I got an angel and a devil on both shoulders right now. Oh, is it going with Darnold? Is it going with J.J.? Now, the point about J.J. that I want to get out there is, I would love to see Kevin O'Connell just work with only J.J. for a couple of years. So that's also the part of it where I'm like, man, I would like for the Vikes to just get rid of Darnold, go J.J., and see if the Vikings can get J.J. playing at a top 10 quarterback in the league level with all the cap space. You kind of go a San Francisco 49ers-esque route, how they went with Brock Purdy. You got him on the rookie deal. You have a loaded roster around him. So it's going to be a very, very interesting debate. But, again, all the reports that we're hearing is pretty much a Super Bowl is the only way Sam Darnold is the starting quarterback next season. But, hey, as it stands right now, you got to make a decision. Who are you choosing as the starter for next year? Give me a 9 for J.J. McCarthy. Give me a 14 for Sam Darnold. Again, right now, let's just say the season just ended today. We got the offseason free agency draft around the corner. Who are you taking as QB1 in Minnesota? Give me a 9 for J.J. or 14 for Sam Darnold. Now, if you guys want more Vikings content on your Twitter timeline, just give me a follow on Twitter or X. That's the handle right there at Pat Sieps. If you guys give me a follow over there, I'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. As always, Skol Vikes, baby. All right, you guys let me know in the live chat. Pick a QB. J.J., Sam Darnold. Who are you rolling with? Mark C's going with the kid, J.J. McCarthy. Garrett Russborough is riding with J.J. Roger. Going with 14, but he also says he can't wait to see J.J. That's kind of where I'm at with you, Roger, me and you, we're just always lined up like that. We're always lined up. I love it. Jake, that guitar player, what's going on, buddy? Saying 14 for Sam Darnold. Mike Freeman rolling with the 14s. Ty Man, the Buckeye, going with the 14s. Skull Nation going with the 14s as well. But we are going to get into a mailbag here in a little bit. So if you guys got a question for me, hashtag Vikings or super chat to get up on the show. We already had a couple super chats to roll in. We'll break those down here in a second. Garrett Russborough, Roger, and Movie Talk Studios sending in some super chats. So I appreciate you guys a whole lot for that, man. Roger coming in with a little funny one here saying, do you know Beavis and Butthead? I'm not Cornholio. I am Skullholio. I have actually never seen that movie, Raj. I do know what you're talking about. I've seen the clips of it, but that is hilarious. I love that. I think that's the most creative skull, not name, but skull phrase I've heard in a very long time. So, Roger, appreciate the $10, man. All types of love heading your way. Hopefully you and your family are doing well. But Garrett Russborough, what up, Garrett? Garrett, by the way, can you check your Twitter DMs? You won the raffle from our last watch party. I would appreciate it if you just send me your shipping address on Twitter. I already DM'd you. I'd love to get you. You actually won a little Viking Santa hat, so I'd love to get that your way before the holidays. But you say, it pains me to ask this. Should the Vikings get a young safety to pair with Cam and Metellus? I love Harrison Smith, but his age is showing. He still makes plays for us, but he is old. Garrett, that is awesome. You want to hit this on the mailbag as well? Yeah, this is a great question. Somebody asked me, how many more years do you think Harrison Smith has left? I think he will probably retire after next season. Now, he could throw us a shocker and retire after this year. I mean, the man's 36 years old. Still playing at a pretty high level, but he does look like he lost a step a little bit. He did restructure his contract this offseason, so maybe he wants to play for maybe 2-3 more years, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, if Harrison Smith ends up retiring, you got to address that safety position. You got to address corner. Like, there are going to be some holes on this roster that are needed to be filled here. But Garrett, I'll go more in depth on this in our mailbag in about 30 minutes or so. But hey, appreciate the $10, my man. And then Movie Talk Studio sending in a 20. Appreciate you, man. Saying Sam now deserves a starting spot, not on a different team, but Minnesota. Sports media and some fans have this Darnold blinder still on. They say he's good, but he needs to be somewhere else. But offense is clicking, and he's staying. Yeah, we can hit that on the mailbag. Movie Talks, go more in depth on this on the mailbag, but I totally agree. If you look, like, it's so funny. And I don't know if I'm going to explain this right, but if you look at, like, all the national media, all the big-time media heads, they refuse to give love to Sam Darnold. They say it's all Kevin O'Connell. They say it's all the weapons. But then again, if that's the case, you would assume Kevin O'Connell would be the favorite to win Coach of the Year. Or you would assume Justin Jefferson would have better odds to win Offensive Player of the Year. But they don't. KOC's third. Jefferson, I think, is down there at, like, fifth. So you kind of got to pick a lane here. Like, is it, Sam Darnold's the reason why the Vikings are, 11-2, or is it Kevin O'Connell? Because it almost seems like fans are, like, scared to pick a lane where it's like, is Darnold the reason for success? Is Kevin O'Connell the reason for success? But if you say Darnold's not, but then you're not saying Kevin O'Connell is the best coach in the National Football League, I just don't get that logic. It's just a kind of not a messed up way of thinking about it, but it's just not the correct way of thinking about it, in my opinion. And I also think both things can be true. I think Kevin O'Connell can be a top 5 coach. I think Jefferson can be the best wide receiver in the league, honestly a top 5 player in the league. And I can also think Sam Darnold is a top 10 quarterback, because all of that gets you the product we've seen out there on the football field this season. So, Movie Talks, I'll talk about that more on our mailbag, but I appreciate you as always. And then another real one here. Jake, that guitar player. What up, baby? Saying, cannot wait to wear my new Winter Warrior Addison jersey from Monday. They are going to look so sick. Also, my question for you, Pat, is what is your favorite Vikes jersey? I'll give you 2 answers for this. Garrett, appreciate you. Just sent your address my way. Thank you so much, my man. Yeah, okay, just got it. Appreciate you, Garrett. But Jake, I'll give you 2 answers. Current Minnesota Vikings best jersey. I know it's mainstream, but you'd probably have to go Jefferson. But if I didn't want to go Jefferson, honestly, a sneaky good one would be Jonathan Grenard. He's locked up for 3 more years after this one. I think the 58 one, you'll not see a whole lot of them just around the Minneapolis area and at, US Bank Stadium. So I would go Grenard as a current one. As an old-time one, I don't know what it is. Anytime I see somebody rocking a Fran Tarkenton jersey, I'm like, they're a diehard Vikings fan. I would probably go Fran. He was before his time. Like, I wish I was old enough to, be alive to even watch him. He was like the first mobile quarterback ever. Or the original Adrian Peterson jersey. Can't go wrong there. But Jake, great question, man. I appreciate you. We could, we can hit that on the mailbag as well. But coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the NFL. Did their worst fear come true about the Minnesota Vikings? Let's dive into it. Let's get after it. Is the NFL's worst fear about the Minnesota Vikings coming true? What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Siepman, host here at Chat Sports. And on today's show, are the Minnesota Vikings peaking at the right time? And does this have the rest of the NFL scared of what's going on in Minnesota? But before we dive into that, I've seen a ludicrous take thrown out there on Twitter that a lot of Bengals fans and some NFL fans think Jamar Chase is better than Justin Jefferson. If you guys think Justin Jefferson is better than Jamar Chase, and I hope all of you think that way, because you guys probably watch every Vikings game and realize what this man, what coverage he gets every single snap. So if you guys think he's better than Chase, just give me an 18 down below. I'll explain my thoughts on this here in a little bit more in depth. But, all right, before the year, what were we all saying? At least this is what I was saying about the Minnesota Vikings. I was saying, hey, the Vikings got a good team. You got 2 good tackles. You got 2 good wide receivers. You got a really good tight end. You picked up Aaron Jones. He's a really good running back. And then you made a ton of great signings in free agency. Van Ginkel, Grenard, Gilmore, Cashman. Pair those guys up with Brian Flores. You got an elite coaching staff. We were all saying it comes down to the quarterback position. Well, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings is playing like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I still think people have the blinders on from before the season, where Vegas had the win total for the Vikings at 6.5 wins. And I feel like people just can't get around the fact that it's like, oh, we all thought the Vikes were coming in 4th in the NFC North. But they can't get around the fact that, like, no, this is one of the better football teams in the NFL. And I even see, this Danny Parkins guy on Fox Sports. He's from Chicago. He's just a typical Bears homer. But if you just go watch, he's on Breakfast Ball. He was talking about the Vikings-Falcons game, and he was like, it was a fluky win for the Vikings. And then he pulled up the stats of the Falcons and Vikes before the fourth quarter. Like, look, man, they were tied at 21. The Falcons had more yards. They had more first downs. It was a fluky win. It's just an idiotic take. Honestly, he's making himself look bad up there. That's why I highly encourage you guys, don't watch Fox Sports. Don't watch these other, big-time media companies, because they just don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. So why is the NFL scared? Well, we're going to go through a Super Bowl checklist here on the show. And I think number one, I don't think you need to have a top 10 quarterback in the NFL to necessarily win a Super Bowl, but you need your quarterback to be playing at a top 10 level. And what I mean by that was, when Flacco, when Nick Foles, when they won Super Bowls, were they top 10 quarterbacks in the league? Probably not, specifically Nick Foles. But during that playoff run, us Vikings fans know it, he killed us in the NFC Championship game. Like, they lost because of Nick Foles. So, number one, top 10 quarterback play. And number two, I think you need to have a great coaching staff on both sides of the football. Like, I think what has made the Chiefs so great over the last, 7 years under Mahomes was, one, obviously they had Patrick Mahomes, but two, you necessarily have 2 head coaches. You got Andy Reid dealing with the offense. You got Spagnuolo dealing with the defense. I think they're one of the better coaching staffs in the National Football League. But besides the Chiefs and Lions, and even the Lions I'm skeptical of, what coaching staff are you taking over the Vikings? Now, I'm going to put the Lions over them just because you got Campbell, a great CEO, Mike Tomlin-esque head coach, and then you also got 2 great coordinators over there in Detroit. I mean, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, they're 2 of the best in the National Football League. So, but besides those guys, who are you taking over the Vikings, coaches? And, Kevin O'Connell, only 3 years in, he's got a 31-16 record. And this is not with an elite quarterback. This is with Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and Jaron Hall. And this man right here is 31-16 1-16 so far this season. He has just been truly special. And then defensively, if you guys remember, Brian Flores took over this defense last year. And remember how bad that 2022 unit truly was. This is the team, keep in mind, that went 13-4. So also shout out to Kevin O'Connell. I mean, winning 13 games with this defense. But point being here, Flores took this, the 28th best scoring defense, the 31st best defense in terms of yards per game, pass yards per game, 31st. They allowed 50 touchdowns on the season, and third down conversion percentage was 41.2. It is awful in all of these major statistical categories. But what did Brian Flores do? He turned this unit into one of the better ones in the National Football League in just 2 seasons. Now, number 3, I think to win a Super Bowl, you got to have top-tier weapons. And I don't think the Vikings have top-tier weapons. I think they got the best weapons in the National Football League. And it starts with these two. And I don't mean this as a disrespect to anybody else on the Vikings roster here. These 2 players you see on screen right now are your 2 best players on your football team. I think after Darrisaw got hurt, I can fully say that. Jefferson, Addison, these are the 2 best players on your team. And guys, if you guys remember, we were talking about Addison only having like 300 yards through 10 games. He has been on a tear over the last month, and you see these stats. I mean, Jefferson already almost 1,200 yards. Addison's going to go over 1,000. He's got 7 touchdowns. Jefferson's got 7 touchdowns. And, more specifically on Jefferson here, I think Jefferson's the top 5 player in the entire NFL, regardless of position. Obviously you weigh the quarterback position higher than, the wide receiver spot, but I honestly think if I had to power rank my top players in the league, I'm going Mahomes, Josh Allen, probably Joe Burrow, and then I'm probably going Justin Jefferson at that 4 or 5 spot. And, I want to show a couple photos here because I got Bengals fans talking crazy on Twitter saying, oh, look at Jamar Chase's stats. 1, Jamar Chase has Joe Burrow throwing him the football. And 2, the attention Jefferson gets is unlike any other in the National Football League. This was on Jalen Naylor's touchdown, if you guys remember it from the Bears game. He literally had 3 guys on him on a corner route. And then the other play I want to highlight here, he's running a deep hitch, and he's got 3 dudes on him, left Addison wide open on the sideline. Like, the amount of attention Jefferson gets, not having a top 5 quarterback throwing him the football, and this man has dominated every single receiving record known to man. And if you just look at most receiving yards in the first 5 seasons for a receiver, Jefferson is smoking who's in second, which is Torrey Holt. Shout out to Randy Moss. Hope everything's good with him. He actually just diagnosed with liver cancer, so prayers up to Randy, man. Hopefully he's doing all good. But Jerry Rice, 4. Julio Jones, 5. I mean, these are 5 of the best receivers in National Football League history. And keep in mind, Jefferson, he missed 8 games last season, and we're only, 13 games into this year, and this man already has 7,000 yards in his first 5 seasons. Like, I think, honestly, what the conversations should be, it's not Jefferson or Chase. It's Jefferson. How close is he to being the greatest wide receiver of all time? But I don't even want you guys to pick a receiver here, even though I'm going to ask you guys. Just type 18. I honestly don't need to ask this. Just show Jefferson some love. Jamar's a great talent. He's going to be an all-time great receiver. He could be a top 10 receiver of all time. But I think the guy on our team, I think he might be the best receiver in National Football League history. Now, we'll talk about more here around the Minnesota Vikings in a second. But first off, I want to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. And if you guys download the app today, use code CONS, you guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CONS, get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 200 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Now, if you guys want to add any more juice to maybe Minnesota Wild, Minnesota Timberwolves, or obviously a Minnesota Vikings game, PrizePicks is the best way to do so. If you think Jefferson's going to have more than 88.5 receiving yards this weekend, go on PrizePicks and choose more. But whatever it may be, whatever lineup you want to come up with, you guys have a chance to get $50 instantly after you use promo code CLNS after you create your first $5 lineup. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. But shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks. Run your game. Number 4. Great and close games. And it's so funny Now, obviously, that 2022 team for the Vikes ended up being frauds, but everybody was saying, oh, all they do is win one-score games, yada, yada, yada. And then the Chiefs this year, all they do is win one-score games, and everybody's like, oh, that's, what it takes to be a Super Bowl contender. It's just funny how the media, moves the goalpost there. But shout out to Kevin Seifert for tweeting this out. Kevin O'Connell has the third best winning percentage for one-score games in NFL history, minimum of 25 games. Guy Chamberlain, who actually coached from 1920 to 27, so if you really want to, count him, sure, but he was 22-7-7. John Madden, the GOAT, was 40-14, and then third on that list is our man Kevin O'Connell. Now, I think late in games, having a great coach obviously is the biggest difference maker in that, and with Kevin O'Connell, how good he is late in these ball games, I think that is a Kevin O'Connell stat. That is a Justin Jefferson stat on why the Vikings are so good late. And also, that's a Brian Flores stat. The amount of times teams have had a chance this season to go score on the Vikings defense and potentially win the game, Flores D has definitely shut that down. So, perfect segue right there. Super Bowl checklist. Elite defense is the last one, because if you have a top 10 quarterback, if you have a great coaching staff, if you got great weapons and you're great in close games, the last thing is just have an elite defense. And the Vikings have that in Minnesota. They're second in rush yards per game given up, even though it's been a little dicey as of late, but they're sixth in points per game. Yes, teams are throwing the ball on the Vikes, pretty well this season, but I think a lot of that has to do with, them just being down in a lot of these games. And I think it even goes further than that. So, what makes up a really good defense? I think you got to take away the run. That's number one. Vikings are second in that. And I think you need to get to the quarterback. Well, the Vikes, they're actually second in pressures, and they're fourth in sacks with 40 this season. Look at that voice crack right there, fellas. But takeaways, they're second in the league. So you stop the run, you get to the quarterback, and you take the football away, put all that in a pot, and you have a Super Bowl defense here in Minnesota. Now, I do want to highlight some negative here. The past 3 games for the Vikings, they've given up a lot of points and a lot of yards compared to what they've done at the beginning of the season, and specifically the rush yards. You give up 154 versus the Cardinals. You give up 158 versus the Falcons. With the Eagles, Lions, Packers having some of the league's best rushing offenses, this is probably my biggest question mark around this football team heading into the remainder of the season. But still, hopefully it's a turnaround game versus, still a good offense. With Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears head into the bank Monday night. Hopefully they turn it around. That's going to be probably my biggest, watching point this Monday night. But, hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, talked about a lot on today's video. If you guys watch this whole thing, just give me a skull down below in the comment section. We use this as a real one roll call. And also, I'm on Twitter, handle @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. As always, Skol Vikes. Alrighty, I want to ask you guys this. Name a random Vikings player for me down below in the comment section. Shout out to Kerry, Dwayne, and Raj, and Wazazi. Yeah, a little bonus weigh-in. Hell yeah. Garrett Russborough going Jared Allen. Shout out to number 69. Eric. We did have another super chat roll in from Harvey. What up, Harvey? Tony going Michael Bennett. Gary Anderson. Mark, come on, dude. I told you not to bring up Gary Anderson there during this time of the year, man. Movie Talk going Josh Dobbs. See, Josh Dobbs, I think Movie Talks, that'll be the best answer for this in 5 years. When you're name a random Vikings player and you pull out Josh Dobbs, that's going to be the number one answer in about 5 years. But Roger in the chat, Skull Nation going Alan Page. Catherine going Wade Wilson. Sam Darnold could also end up being a random Viking in a couple years if he ends up leaving. EV going Blair Walsh. No Blair Walsh, no Gary Anderson talk around here. I'm going to ban those 2 names in the live chat. Probably once playoff time rolls around. But Harvey Buxton coming in with a $5 super chat. Shout out to you, man. What about franchise tagging Darnold and seeing if he can do it twice, or will that just do more harm than good? Good for the team, Skull Pat. Great question. Yeah, that's a great mailbag question. We'll hit that there, Harvey. I kind of dove into my thoughts around the tag a little bit. I think there's obviously pros and cons to anything in life, but I think the pros of the tag is kind of like what you're saying. Are you going to be able to prove to this organization in terms of Sam Darnold that you can do it back-to-back years? That's what the franchise tag will allow you to do. But also, the one negative about the tag is like it's going to be $41 million next year on the books. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, like which would restrict your spending in free agency. So it's like, some Vikings fans are like, let's just tag Darnold, and so then we can have JJ on the rookie deal. But if you tag Darnold in a big time free agency class, you won't be able to spend as much. So I'm really kind of in the middle about the tag. I will say this, whatever the Vikings do, it is the right decision. I think this offseason was a great example. Like, people were freaking out. How do you let Kirk Cousins walk? How you brought in Sam Darnold to replace Kirk Cousins. Now, if you ask any general manager in the National Football League who would you rather have, Darnold or Kirk, no matter what the money is, they would all roll with Sam Darnold. But, whatever the Vikings do, even if they make a Super Bowl and they let Sam Darnold walk, I'm sure I'll be a little disappointed, but I will still believe them, or believe in them, and just believe in their decision making. So, honestly, my ideal contract for Darnold would just be 2 years, $50 million. I'm not sure if he would take that. If the Vikings get priced out, I don't want them to kind of overreach for Darnold and be like, fine, dude, we'll give you a 3 for $120 million. Don't want to do that necessarily. But, remember last year I was saying on the channel, like, offer Kirk. I remember I was very set on this. Offer Kirk a 3-year, $60 million deal. It's easy on the cap. He can stay in Minnesota, stay with O'Connell, stay with the weapons. And if he says no, you let him walk. He walked. He's terrible in Atlanta. If I'm Sam Darnold, I am looking at what happened to Kirk Cousins and maybe being more open to taking a discount. But Harvey, I appreciate your question as always, man. But we're going to dive into a mailbag here. So again, last call, hashtag Vikings Super Chat. You guys will get on the show. But let's break it down, man. What's up, Vikings fans? Welcome to Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, the Vikings could be in trouble versus the Chicago Bears unless they do this. And then also, we got our world-famous mailbag where I answer your guys' questions on the second half of today's show. So all of that coming up in just a second. But before we dive into it, we are in a sub-battle this week versus our Bears Now show. And I was looking at the analytics here on YouTube, and we're actually just 5 subscribers back. So if you guys can help me out here, I'm a competitive dude. Harrison Graham, he's our host of our Bears Now channel. He's a competitive dude as well. So I would love to beat him. So if you guys haven't already, hit that sub button. Help us reach 45,000 subs here on YouTube. So I'd appreciate it. And plus, if you guys don't want to miss a thing around your Vikes, subscribe today. So the Vikings are in trouble versus the Chicago Bears if Caleb Williams gets hot and carves up the Vikings defense. Now, we saw it. Caleb, back in Week 12, man, he was fantastic against the Minnesota Vikings. That was honestly my biggest shocker from that game, was how good Caleb looked, specifically against the blitz, which he also has been a lot better against the blitz this season compared to not getting pressured at all. But, man, against the Vikes, 32 of 47, 340 and 2. Now, a lot of those yards and that one touchdown came in garbage time, but the Bears ended up getting the onside kick, so people don't want to call it garbage time. But, again, if they didn't get the onside kick, we wouldn't really be talking about Caleb's performance. But he looked good. And, Caleb reminds me, and he kind of reminds me of Steph Curry. And what I mean by that is I'm going to go like early NBA career Steph Curry, where he was a guy where it's like, hey, if he got an easy layup, if he got a wide open 3 and he saw them get knocked through, like then he kind of blacks out where all he's seeing for the rest of the game is back rim. Well, I think in Week 12, the Vikings let Caleb get comfortable early. He saw a couple easy completions. He had some big-time throws, and he just really started to get rolling. He started feeling himself a little bit. But also, I think this time in the bank with the crowd noise, Brian Flores' typical mug look, I don't think the Vikings will let Caleb get as comfortable as he did back in Week 12. But, hey, Caleb's got weapons to throw to. All 3 of these guys are very, very good wide receivers. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. It's actually funny. Rome Odunze's dad early on this week tweeted out that Rome would have had 1,500 yards if he was on any other NFC North team. Hey, Mr. Odunze, I'm being honest right now. Rome wouldn't be playing for the Minnesota Vikings. Just want to make that clear. You also probably wouldn't be playing for the Detroit Lions, and you would maybe get reps with the Green Bay Packers. I would be lucky that he was drafted by the Bears over any of the other 3 teams in the NFC North. But Keenan Allen's still fantastic. He killed the Vikes last time they played, and they've been really using DJ Moore more like Deebo Samuel. They've been getting him handoffs. They've been getting him quick screens. So, watch out for these 3 guys. But, even though I was saying the Vikings could be in trouble if they let Caleb Williams get going. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I'm very confident the Vikings winning this weekend. You're a 7-point favorite for a reason. So I expect the Vikings to have Caleb seeing ghost on Monday night. I think just a combination of the crowd noise, the elite pressure, just overall how our defense kind of just confuses young quarterbacks. And, what have been the quarterbacks that have killed the Vikings this season? It's been Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. Those guys are statuesque. They like to stay in the pocket. And when Caleb, he's more of a playmaker, and I think that's a very, volatile play style against the Minnesota Vikings because you'll have your highs, but you'll also have your extreme lows. So I'm hoping Caleb comes out there swinging it, and I think Caleb will possibly throw a couple interceptions this weekend. But I'll ask you guys this. Will Caleb throw an INT this Monday night? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down below in the comment section. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Now we'll dive into our mailbag here in a second, but first, I do want to give a massive shout out to today's presenting sponsor, and that is Game Time. Now, if you guys download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS, you guys will get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, my favorite feature of the Game Time app is their views from your seat feature they have, which gets you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you even buy. So if you guys are trying to go to a Minnesota Wild, Timberwolves, or even a Vikings game, Game Time is the best way to do so. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, my favorite part of my week where I just get to answer questions from you guys. Garrett Russborough saying, it pains me to ask this. Should the Vikings get a young safety to pair with Cam Bynum and Josh Metellus? I love Harrison Smith, but his age is showing. He still makes plays for us, but he is old. Garrett, it pains me to answer this question, but I agree with you. I don't really know when Harry is going to hang up the cleats. If I had to give a guess, it would probably be end of next season, so we'll get him for the rest of this year and all of next year. But, eventually that retirement is coming. And I love Cam Bynum. I love Josh Metellus, but Cam Bynum, you got to extend him. Josh Metellus, you're going to have to extend him here pretty soon. So I think this honestly comes down to, Garrett, is like, let's just say Brian Flores signs an extension with the Vikings this offseason, and he's locked in to be our DC for the next couple of years. Then you got to go get another safety, especially a versatile safety, because we all know that's what Flores likes to do. He likes to put his safeties in the box. He likes to put his safeties even coming off the edge, and that's why Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith have had just some great careers under Flores. But I'm with you. I think they're going to have to address the safety position soon. I don't know if it's this offseason. I would probably guess next offseason. Movie Talk Studios. What up, man? Saying Sam now deserves a starting spot, not on a different team, but Minnesota. Sports media and some fans have the Darnold blinder still on. They say he's good, but needs to be somewhere else. But the offense is clicking, and he's staying. I totally agree with what you're saying, especially about the blinders. And, it's just natural because, I think first impressions are lasting impressions. And our first impression of Sam Darnold in the National Football League was ugly. The whole scene ghost nonsense that everybody likes to say about a quarterback struggling, that happened from when Sam Darnold actually squared off with Brian Flores, funny enough, back in New England. But that whole kind of reputation he had for himself back in New York, I still feel like people can't kind of push through that barrier and be like, no, Sam Darnold is a very, very good quarterback. Listen, I hope he stays. I think right now, as I'm recording this, my ideal contract for him would be 2 years, $50 million. Again, another team will probably offer him more than that. But if I'm Darnold's agent, I'm telling him, hey, look at what happened to Kirk Cousins when he left. Different situations. Kirk's 36, coming off a torn Achilles. But I also believe Kevin O'Connell, there's just some magic stuff he puts in the quarterback's back pocket every single week. So Darnold, hopefully he stays. But, we got to wait and see how that plays out. Jake, that guitar player, what up? Cannot wait to wear my Winter Warrior Addison jersey for Monday. They're going to look so sick. Also, my question for you, Pat, is what is your fave Vikes jersey? I'll go with my fave Vikings jersey that I own. I got a Jefferson and a Moss one. those are up there. I had an Eric Kendricks one, which I was a big fan of, obviously when it was like the Zimmer days, so I like that one. Adrian Peterson's up there for me. I have a new J.J. McCarthy one. It's actually a Winter Warrior jersey. Maybe I'll wear that on Monday. But favorite, like if I had to get one right now, I would probably go Jonathan Grenard. He's locked up for 3 years, one of the best edge rushers in the league, and plus that's kind of a unique jersey. But an all-time jersey that I want to get is Fran Tarkenton. I think it's awesome. I think it's super just swaggy when you see somebody wearing a Fran Tarkenton jersey. So, Jake, I appreciate that question, man. Shout out to you. Harvey, what up? What about franchise tagging Darnold and seeing if he can do it twice, or will that just do more harm than good for the team? Skull, Pat. Skull to you, Mr. Harvey. You know, I got a lot of thoughts on the tag. The biggest negative of the franchise tag would be, you know, if you pay Sam Darnold that $41 million, it is on the books for next season. Like, you can't add void years. You can't add dead cap. And if the Vikings, you know, they got $68 million to spend in free agency. If they just take $41 million of it to Sam Darnold and the tag, you're kind of not screwing yourself for next season, but you're obviously limiting your spending in free agency. Now, the positives of that, you bring Darnold back for another year. You're not just letting him walk out the door. And like you said, you get another look at him for a full season, because even if you do think like, oh, this is just kind of a fluky year, he's still the same guy that he once was, tagging him would allow you to get a bigger sample size. But, you know, listen, there's pros and cons on the whole thing. But pretty much, I hope they keep him, and I hope it's on a team-friendly deal. Obviously, that's me, you know, more wishful thinking than critical thinking. But, Harvey, I appreciate you, man. Roger coming in, saying, are the Bears the new Lions of the North? Oh, talking about them just being the bottom feeders. I'm going to say yes and no. The Bears still scare me for the next couple of years, and it's just going to come down to their head coach. Like, if they end up, like, what if they hire Flores? And then what if they hire Josh McCown as their OC? That would terrify me. Because Caleb, obviously, very, very talented football player. But again, like the Bears, there's just a stench of just loser in that organization, and it's going to take a culture setter to get that out of there. Like, if they hire Vrabel and they get a good offensive coordinator, yeah, I'd be a little scared of the Bears. But are they the new Lions of the North? I don't know if they'll be bottom feeders for the next 5-10 years, since they do have a very talented young quarterback on a cost-controlled contract. So, Roger, I appreciate you, but I'm going to go yes and no on that one. Movie Talk, what up? Same mailbag. Crazy that you and me said Darnold wasn't the fit for us when we went against the Jags. If you remember, it aged like milk. I mean, dude, after that Jags game, I was nervous, Movie Talk, because that was also coming off the Colts game where he didn't look good, and then the Jags game when he had three interceptions, went 0 for 5 in the red zone. Like, yeah, I was terrified of Sam Darnold going full pumpkin mode. But what did he do after that game? He went to Tennessee, played great. He went to Chicago, played great. He was back at home versus the Cardinals, played great. And then this past weekend, he was amazing against the Atlanta Falcons. So, yeah, I mean, and that's also, like, I'm sure I'll get comments eventually be like, dude, you flip-flopped on your take about Sam Darnold. Like, you were saying they shouldn't extend him, and then you were saying they should extend him. Guys, every game I get, I'm going to have a changed opinion on who Darnold is. And also, the Vikings front office, Kwesi, all those guys up top, they're probably going on a game-to-game basis right now. I'm sure Kwesi, after the Jags game as well, was saying, man, do we have a problem here at quarterback? Do we need to go sign Ryan Tannehill? Do we need to go start Daniel Jones? Like, I'm sure those are all conversations they had, but he has turned that around. Again, everything updates every day in the NFL. And not only with fans, but with front offices as well. But Movie Talks, I appreciate you. Last question coming in from EV, saying, should Minnesota extend Stephon Gilmore? Oh, I love Gilly Locks, but I'm going to say no. I mean, he's 34 years old, dealing with a hamstring injury right now. Now, yes, the Vikings have a need at corner. Gilmore, Murphy, Griffin, all going to be free agents. But if I had to pick one corner to extend, it's got to be the man with 6 interceptions. It would be Byron Murphy. You know, I think he's played very good this year. He's obviously, you know, got a little Trayvon Diggs in him, where it's like, yeah, he'll get a lot of interceptions, but also get beat a lot. But yeah, if I had to pick any of the 3 corners who are set to be free agents, I'm going to go Stephon Gilmore, or I'm going to go Byron Murphy over Stephon Gilmore. Now, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, just give me a skull down below in the comments section. We'll use this as a real one roll call. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll be live here on the channel tomorrow night for Monday Night Football, so tune in then. Also, I'm on Twitter, @PatSieps. Give me a follow over there, and I'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. As always, ladies and gentlemen, Skol Vikes. Alrighty. Excuse me, everybody. Roger, I love that, man. Appreciate you. But guys, we're going to sign off here. I do want to say thank you guys so much for watching today's live show. We'll be back live an hour before kickoff. Monday Night Football will be me and Tex in the building, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Mark C in the house. Mark C, you better ride with my picks on Monday night, big guy. That's all I'm going to say. Eric, shout out to you, man. Yeah, Eric, we unfortunately got to sign off here. Yeah, movie talk. Appreciate you, man. Please do so. Was AZ saying Skulltex. Skulltex is back this Monday night, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you worry about that. But we're going to sign off here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our live show. Skol Vikes.